Mr. Fields, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
My name is Donald Fields, DOC number 329127.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. We will ask the warden for his comments at some point, and then those persons who wish to have input will then have an opportunity to speak. We have a number of people here at the DOC headquarters as well as on Zoom who are here in your support. I'll read those names and tell you which ones wish to speak. Your attorney, Ms. Grace Bronson, is here. Mr. Ronald Marshall, who is a friend, wishes to speak. Your mother, Patricia Greathouse, is here but isn't going to speak. Willie Fields is here for support, your uncle. Renee Campbell, your sister, is here for support. Mr. Andrew Hundley with the Louisiana Parole Project will be speaking. Jamal Haynes, your son-in-law, is here for support. Renee Gardner is here for support. Kim Gardner is here for support. Patricia Fields is here for support. Dyra Haynes, your daughter, is here and she will be speaking. Etrine Greathouse, your sister, is here for support. And Krisha Fields is here, your niece, is here for support. After we have the interview and the hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board. Then your lawyer will close it out and then we will vote. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir, I do.
This is the matter of Donald R. Fields, DOC number 329127, date of birth 9/28 of 1975. He's a third felony offender. He has an adjusted good time date of March the 22nd of 2031. He has a full term date of June the 8th of 2034. He is currently serving a 30-year sentence on the charges of armed robbery and aggravated burglary. Is that information fairly accurate, Mr. Fields?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Fields, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll begin the interview process. Would you please tell me how old you are, sir?
I'm 40 years old.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
I've been in 19 years and 5 months.
Mr. Fields, I noticed in the record you have 4 children. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
How old are your children?
31, 30, 26, and 22.
Do you have a relationship with them? Are you currently in touch with all 4 of your children?
Yes, I have a beautiful relationship with them. Thank God that they were able to be in my life and a part of my incarceration the whole time.
Now, how old were you when you came to prison on these charges?
I was 28 years old.
So let's talk about Mr. Donald Fields at 28 years old. Were you working?
Your feed froze up and I really couldn't hear your question. Could you repeat it again for me, please?
You were 28 years old when you committed this armed robbery and this aggravated burglary. Were you working?
Yes. So as you can see that I have prior convictions. At the end of my last conviction, which was 1999, I put myself in a position to provide for my family by going. I went to MS Carrier's truck driving school in Memphis, Tennessee. And I drove for them for approximately 10 or 11 months. And I then went to New Orleans to drive for a company called Legacy, delivering goods to schools and that nature. So the beginning of summer of 2004, my license got revoked and I had to pay some civil fees. And I found myself in a hard situation where I wasn't able to provide for my family and take care of myself. So I made a foolish decision.
Let's talk a little more about who you were back at 28 years old. Were you involved with drugs or alcohol?
No, sir. I wasn't a drug user. I wasn't a drinker either. Basically, I was walking a straight line until I lost my job and I just felt that the car, the rug was pulled up.
Have you ever used drugs in the past?
I smoked weed probably about 7 or 8 times in my life.
How about alcohol?
No alcohol. I don't drink. I probably drink a beer at a function or something like that, but no drinking either.
All right, so tell me what happened on June the 10th of 2004. What prompted you to rob, to commit this robbery, Mr. Dillon?
Okay, so I was in a financial crunch where I wasn't able to pay any of my bills and provide for my. I had 4 small children. So I made a decision to get with some guys who we were going to take a van from cigarette company and bring it to a store merchant that we knew who was supposed to give us $15,000 for the van. So in the midst of that, in the process of us still in the van, the police came up and my co-defendants fled on foot. I mean, they fled in a vehicle. I fled on foot. I ended up in the yard where a neighbor came out and she was like, "What are you doing?" So I was like, "It's okay, man. I'm just waiting for somebody. You could go on inside." But my answer didn't satisfy her. She got loud, and try to get me away. So I ushered her into her house and put her on the far side of her room. So her daughter came down, and I told her to go over by her mother. So she went over by her mother. I tried to reassure him that I wasn't going to hurt her because I didn't have no intention to hurt nobody. I'm really not, that type of person. But nowhere in my mind at the time, with my desperation and my distorted thinking, did I think that these people would never believe that I don't intend to do them no harm, because I'm a total stranger in their home, seemingly desperate, and she knows by this point I'm eluding the police, which I was. I knew that I would be in a lot of trouble after I got caught behind this. So at the time of all this going on, there was an officer looking through the window, seeing the whole event unfold. 5 minutes later, the police swarmed the back door. I ran out the front, ran around the house, down the block, and took refuge in the garbage can for probably about an hour. Shortly after that, I was caught and brought to jail. And when I got time to really think about it, the things that I did, and had the time to reflect on it, I had to just take accountability, take my lick, so I pled guilty to the 30 years when they came, offered them to me.
Earlier, we talked about drugs, and you said all you did was marijuana. You got a conviction for Schedule II narcotics in 1995. What was that? Cocaine?
No, that was crack cocaine. And my messed up way of thinking, that was my way of providing, helping provide for my kids and myself.
What you mean by that's your way of thinking? Were you selling it?
Yeah, I was. I didn't have any job skills at the time. I had no concept of the future. And my way of responsible thinking from the environment I grew up in, and the depth of thinking that I had from growing up was, you have to do what you have to do in order to provide for your family, which was skewed thinking. Now that I look at it now, it was just the wrong idea to do it.
In the 19 years that you've been in prison, what programs have you taken? What have you done while you've been in prison to improve yourself? Tell me what programs you've taken, and what have you gotten out of any of those programs?
So I've taken victim awareness. I took victim awareness. I took substance abuse. I took CJI. I took all other sorts of religious courses, self-help courses. I have core. I have electronic system technician. I'm certified to install.
Tell me what's the most, just in your own words, what do you consider to be one of the best programs, or what's the best thing you've learned in all of the classes that you take?
I have to say victim impact because it gave me an outlook on like the victim's point of view and made me realize that the people that I hurt, the victims that I did my crime to, you know, look at things from their perspective. Not only that, but to understand that my family was victims too, the community. You know, it was much deeper than me just taking something from somebody or trying to take something from somebody or going to somebody's home who just going about their everyday business. It made me understand that much deeper, that it was not just this incident and it was dead, that these people gonna be affected emotionally, psychologically, you know, possibly throughout their whole life. So that was my best class. That was my best.
In looking at your rap sheet, you've been in prison for 19 years, but you also have on your rap sheet an arrest of May the 9th of 2016 in Wynn Parish for battery of a police officer. There are no records there, so I'm going to ask you to tell me what that was about.
So it was just one day that they had all kind of stuff going on, and the officers came on the tip, and they harassed. I ain't saying they harassed people, but they beat a few people up, and oftentimes when that happens, we get a write-up for hitting the officer, for whatever reason. So I had that. That was the reason I got shipped to Angola. I didn't actually hit the officer.
Okay. You were charged with that. Did you actually go to court for that?
Yes, I did. They shipped me away from there, and they held court on me when I was in Angola.
Did you actually go to a courthouse and have charges filed against you, or was it just a disciplinary action?
They brought me to a courthouse and filed charges, fingerprinted me and stuff like that. But they ultimately dropped the charges because they had no merit. I never went back to court for it. I had people to call and find out if I had independent charges, but there wasn't.
Mr. Fields, since you've been in prison, you've had 128 write-ups. Your last one was in October of 2022, a year ago. You've lost 762 days of good time. Tell me about that. What's all that about?
So when I first came to prison, I felt like I let a lot of people down. I hurt people. I did things to people who didn't deserve it. My victims. I left my family. I sold myself out. I sold my family out. So I felt worthless. I felt like it was nothing for me. So I was doing things that were this self-destructive. I couldn't see no future. I didn't have no concept of nothing. I felt just abandoned. Like, I had no hope. And that's where all my write-ups stem from.
Well, I'm looking at your last 8 or 9 write-ups, and they were since 2020. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contraband charges. What was the contraband for?
Mostly phones. One was for drugs.
Which one was for drugs? What kind of drugs did you have?
So I had drugs in 2018 that was attributed to me. I had part of it. I take responsibility for it.
Tell me the type of drug you had. What did you have?
Okay, it was heroin. 2018 October.
Okay, so you got written up for having heroin in 2018.
Yes.
Now, you indicated that when you first came to prison, you had a lot of problems, but I'm looking at the last several years, you've had a ton of write-ups. You continue to get right. You had one a year ago for a Defiance. What was that one about?
Which date was it?
The date was October the 20th of 2022, which was a little over a year ago, year and a week. Year and 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay, That was an incident in the visit shade where I had my own around my girlfriend in a visit shed, and the officer rolled up and she told me to take my arm from around her, and I questioned her like, what am I doing wrong? So she felt that I shouldn't have questioned her, so she wrote me up for defiance.
Well, Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Fields?
Yeah, Mr. Barabella, he's got on the right track. The last year or so, he's been doing some good things. He's enrolled in victim impact. He's working on his education, electrical certification. He's doing well right now. I shared the concerns with the disciplinary reports, and especially the recent contraband with cell phones and stuff. So, concerned about that. I'd like to see a little more time, without write-ups, but he's been doing well. He's on the right track.
Thank you very much, Warden. Appreciate your comments. Questions?
Yes.
Ms. Rocha?
I have a question for Warden Borlaug. Warden
Yes, sir.
Borlaug, would you list the good time programs that he's completed?
I'm seeing only living in balance.
Yeah, yeah. And pre-release, right?
Let's see. Where we at?
He completed in substance abuse.
That was living in balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a good time from CJI. I got a good time from 100 hours of reinsurance.
Sir,
I have a good time from
sir, I'm talking to the warden.
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, that was all I was seeing was the limited balance that showed up on his CTRP program.
And he's on backlog for anger management, right?
Correct. Are you just enrolled now? Yeah, he just started it. That and victim impact.
So there's not many, there's very limited good time classes he's completed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Now we'll hear from your supporters. We'll first hear from Mr. Ronald Marshall.
Good morning. My name is Ronald Marshall. I'm a childhood friend of Donald Fields. I've been knowing him all my life. It was 4 of us. We grew up in the Florida Project. Every sight, sound that we saw in that project is the reason why his life and our life mirror each other. We both suffered many traumas. I'm formerly incarcerated. I spent 25 years in the Department of Corrections. I am now the chief policy analyst at VOTE. I teach a trauma class in Angola. I teach another trauma class in OJC. And the reason why I teach these trauma classes is because men like Donald Fields and myself, we grew up in these traumagenic circumstances, the projects, and every trauma, it influences our behavior over the years. And we become adults and we still do not have any understanding of what happened to us as kids. Donald Ray has the same number of adverse childhood experiences I have, 9. The only one he does not have is the sexual ache. He's never been sexually assaulted. I've never been sexually assaulted. But his life and my life, it mirrors each other. I'm talking about every day. I have the same criminal record that he has. And the reason for that, we grew up as young Black kids surrounded by crime every day. Every day. And everything, every sight, every sound, it molded us. It shaped our way of being. That was the same. You're either going to be nurtured by your environment or raised by the nature. Nurture versus nature debate is real. We are part of our environment. And it takes some men who come from those hard environments to break that mold. Donald Ray has a lot of write-ups, but I noticed when I started writing him 10 years ago when I was incarcerated, his write-ups began to wane. It's a conditioning process, and it takes a long time to break old habits. But I noticed that the percentage of his write-ups after he and I began to communicate, begin to drop, because I begin to explain to him, man, listen, when you go before that parole board, you're gonna have to show yourself worthy of being granted parole. You have to show that. And I know, because I suffered with that. I had like a 200 write-ups in 25 years. But those write-ups does not mean that I'm going to be a failure upon my release. Look at me now. I'm a chief policy analyst at Voice of the Experience. I write bills. I write law. I advocate for former incarcerated and incarcerated men. I teach a trauma class. I have my own business called Healing Humanity. Those write-ups that he have, I would not say that they measure his failure, but what I'm going to say is he made some mistakes, and I know where he come from, his environment. It's the reason for that. That's my best friend. We grew up together in the projects. He had a hard life, and he had some hard write-ups over the years. He was trying to adjust his incarceration, but I don't think those write-ups should be the reason he should be remanded in prison. I'd ask the board to give him a favorable recommendation, give him an opportunity. I'm here to do everything to help him upon his release. I knew he had a tough time growing up as a kid. He suffered with all the reactions of trauma, all the ACEs, all the symptoms. He have them, but he's working toward becoming a better man. And that's all I want to say. And I thank y'all for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we'll hear from Mr. Hundley.
Andrew Hundley with the Louisiana Parole Project, appearing today to confirm that if the board grants Mr. Fields' release, he will be welcomed into our residential reentry program, where he will have the opportunities to take advantage of all of our reentry programming. He will also have a peer mentor case manager assigned to him for a minimum of 1 year. He will have a social worker who will complete a mental health and substance abuse assessment, and we would ensure that he follows all recommendations from that assessment. Additionally, he would have access to our employment enhancement program and reentry health initiative. In short, just wanted to confirm to the board that he does have a solid reentry plan, and he does have support, and obviously amazing support from his family, who you'll hear from, but the support from our organization to assist him with his reentry upon his release. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hundley. Now we hear from Ms. Adira Haynes, your daughter.
My name is Adira Haynes. I'm Donald's daughter. My dad has been in jail. I was 11 years old. And I know we're talking about the write-ups, that's mainly the problem. But I was so angry at my dad for so long when he first went to prison, because I was like, why do you keep doing all this? What are you doing? But I was able to maintain a great relationship with him. He knows my husband, he knows his grandkids. And I think that giving him the hope, bringing him to see him, which it took me a very long time to do. I brought my kids to see my dad, and ever since then, I feel like I gave him a little hope, and I just feel like that's all he really needs. My house is a very disciplined house. I want my dad to come. And by no way I will allow him to engage in any kind of activity that's not lawful, because I don't do that in my home. I'm a nurse, husband's an engineer. And I just support him. Whether I have to take him to a physical, therapy, see a therapist, whatever he needs from me, I can do, because living a life without a dad is no way to be. And my daughter is my age now. And I would like her to experience my daughter, because I did not. And I just support whatever he needs from me. And I don't think that he'll come home and do anything that is not law abiding, because he decided to. He could have went to New Orleans, where he can engage with the same people doing the same activities, but he decided he wanted to come live with me in the country, Denver Springs. He's given himself a chance, and I pray that you all can give him a chance as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Fields, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to?
I just want the board to know, y'all give me an opportunity for parole, that I know for sure that I can prove to y'all to my victims, my family, my community as a whole, that I could be a productive member of society, that those write-ups, they don't really reflect the person I am and who I've become. I know it's a struggle, but I'm working on myself. I made progress. You know, I know the things that I do, those same write-ups that I accumulated, that experience helped me to help my community in here, to work with figures in authority or without them, to really help diffuse situations that could be, you know, potentially dangerous in here. And, you know, those skills allow me to identify things and, you know, certain behaviors that keep me away from trouble. You know, I learned to identify what could be harmful to me. And I know for certain that I could be a better person if I was to given an opportunity to restart my life. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bronson? Nicole is a constant concern.
Every time I go. Good morning, board. Thank you all for allowing us to come in person and to have all of this support from Mr. Fields. I'm in Mr. Fields' Adeline Hunt doing an alumni event for a lot of the lifers and people that have been there a long time. And he approached me and said that he recently found out that he had a parole date about 3 weeks ago. Was not aware that he had a parole date, but was like, I really want to be able to put my best foot forward. I know that I have a lot to make up for. And from the beginning, my initial conversation with him was completely about accountability. And I know we talk a lot about accountability for people who have committed offenses. And Judge Mirabella, you know, who were you at 28 years old, positions us that Mr. Fields was somebody and had the chance to become somebody else. And he is before the parole board with a not perfect conduct record. I've looked at many, not as much as you all, but a lot of conduct records, and I know a lot of people who have been released from DOC custody. Ronald Marshall to Everett Offray to a slew of incarcerated men and women who are there to be an example and a witness and a support for a lot of men like Mr. Fields, who have this wealth of knowledge because they can speak to not only that they were somebody that they are not proud of, that sometimes there's shame and guilt, but that process has led them to where they are. Mr. Fields, his conduct record, I know is a concern for this board. I know that his recent conduct records are a concern for this board. And I will say that, you know, he makes no excuses. He pled guilty, and got punished for those conducts. And his support, I think, not only shows to what he would be coming home to speak to his successful reentry, but also the support that he has had through his incarceration to give him hope, to give him direction. Mr. Roche, you asked about his good time classes, and I think in the records that I have and his certificates, like he has taken anger management twice. This is his third time that he actively wanted to get into it. He has been in substance abuse. He is currently enrolled in victim impact, but has already completed the victim writing and accountability session last year. He is a trustee status and works on Squad 5, where he goes off grounds to do groundskeeping in the community, at the cemetery and the church. So he is in a trusted position and has, as the warden has said, is in that direction. And I think that he has continued to put his best foot forward despite a lot of what he has gone through in his childhood. And you see a lot of that before this board. Mr. Marshall spoke to the environment that they grew up in. Mr. Fields was a drug dealer. He was providing the oldest of 6 siblings to provide for his family. That his nickname was Mr. Mom at 9 years old because he was supporting his family, and that environment and that mentality changes your reality of how you interact in the world. And then you go to prison, and all of that becomes even more intensified. And so I think, in my professional opinion, Mr. Fields has continued to develop that, has his education, has his GED, he has forklift certification, CPR training. He has participated in electric classes so that he is certified to be able to work with his brother-in-law for his engineering company. Has the parole project that will ensure that he follows the regulations of parole, and I can speak to LPP as you all can as well, that they are very serious about their reentry and qualifications, and if he does not follow that, he cannot be in it, on top of him being on parole. And then his long-term living is not going back to New Orleans, but with his daughter, who is a registered nurse, and her husband and their 3 children, who has a fantastic relationship with all his grandkids. And in conclusion, so I don't draw on too long, but his progress throughout his incarceration is an arc, and he didn't always have the perspective that he would be sitting here before you all today, with all of his family still in his corner. I think that's a testament to his character, to what he can accomplish, and all of the people that will ensure that he is accountable for his behavior and his successful reentry. I ask that you all grant Mr. Fields a chance and have him be on parole with the stipulations that you see fit. And if he is, and before the Louisiana Parole Project, he is also willing to go to like a halfway house or some type of interim as well, if the board sees fit for that as well. And if you all, as well as all of the community support and reentry services that he will participate in upon his release. So I thank you all for your time and attention to Mr. Fields.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bronson. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Panel ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Fields. Mr.
Yes,
Fields,
sir.
I have listened intently to everyone who has spoken here today. You've got a wonderful support system. Apparently you just realized a few weeks ago that you were up for parole. I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that you were still getting in trouble a year ago. I'm not sure. Maybe had you known you had an opportunity for parole earlier than that, then maybe you might have been a little more disciplined. Your discipline concerns me, and we'll talk about that in just a few moments. But you've got a great support system waiting for you when you get out. But it's not the support system that's going to get you through. It's you. The issue is you. What are you going to do? You talked about drug use. You talked about, I really think maybe you downplayed your drug use. You got a contraband write-up a few years ago for heroin in prison. Of course, you had an excuse. It wasn't yours. Somebody, I don't know what all your excuse was. But your write-ups continue. You didn't just come to prison and then all of a sudden it tapered down. You're continuously getting disciplinary write-ups. And that's a real problem for me, clearly. And, it looks like you're moving in the right direction. Now that you know you've got an opportunity to get out, there's a possibility you've got good support outside. Maybe you can work a little harder to stay disciplinary free. But those are rules violations. you've had 128 write-ups. You've lost 2 years of good time. And as of a year ago, you're still getting write-ups. That tells me that you're not getting it, that you're not ready to follow the rules. They don't apply to you. And that's a concern to me. Based upon your criminal history, your disciplinary history, I believe you need more programs, and I believe you need some more substance abuse programs to really come to grips with drugs. I don't know if you have a drug issue or not. You say you do not. You have drug charges. You were a drug dealer, you say. Many times drug dealers are drug users. You were caught with heroin in prison. So all of those things bother me. You are moving in the right direction, but you're just not there yet for me. My vote would be to deny. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fields, my vote is the same for the exact same reasons.
Mr. Freeman?
Mine's also the same for the same reasons. Try to stay right up free and then reapply, because I do think you headed in the right direction. Listening to you, you are an educated person. So let's try to get it right this time.
Mr. Fields, you've got 3 votes to deny, but I've heard some encouraging things. You've got a wonderful support system waiting for you when you get out. You've got a wonderful family waiting for you when you get out. You just need to do a little more work on you, and then you'll be ready. Good luck to you, sir.